Welcome back to Dunkirk Dunes. Here we are for Anzacanarance, turn 6. And this is a really interesting game, and this is going to be a really interesting turn as well. So you probably know that Sydney fell to the Japanese. G.I. Joe took Sydney. Great play, G.I. Joe. So Anzac has no money. Canada has 12 to spend, and here's what I'm going to go ahead and do with that. I'm going to buy a transport for 7 and an artillery, which makes 11, and then I'll be carrying over 1 to the next round. So the really interesting thing here that we're going to do is you'll notice that Italy and Germany have basically backed off of Rome. They've completely pulled out of Rome. There's nothing there. And you'll also notice that what's in Germany is actually only Italian troops. There are no Germans in Berlin. And we do have, Canada has a little transport here in 91 sitting off the coast of Gibraltar. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go 1 into 92, 2 into 94, 3 into 95, and I'm just going to go ahead and take the infantry and the tank from Gibraltar, and we're going to land in Rome. And what, under the BBR rules, what this does is it's not like capture of a normal capital. What actually happens in the BBR is Italy flips from Axis power to an Allied power, but it's a little more complicated than that. So what happens is, in any of these territories where there are Italian units that are mixed with other Axis units, German units, actually, in every case on the board this game, each of those Italian units are going to be replaced immediately with German units. And so that's going to happen here in northern Italy. It's going to happen here in western Germany. It's going to happen here in Baltic states. But there are a handful of places where there are Italian units all by themselves. And the big one in particular is Berlin. And so what, under the BBR rules as they currently stand, what this means is that Germany actually loses its capital. And so that's going to force the issue that us as the allies we love, that Germany is not going to be able to spend any money at the beginning of turn 7. Now, of course, Germany can take their capital back, but it's going to be a significant blow to them that they will not be able to spend any money on turn 7. And of course, this is just an 8-round game. The other thing that it's going to do is, in Leningrad, there's just Italian forces. That's going to actually just revert back to the Soviets. So, and I've kind of marked here with, the red markers, each one of these that's affected by this. So the other one here, so Eastern Poland was Axis Italian, but you'll see there that it's full of German troops. That's actually going to flip, and I'll just do that now. It's going to flip from Italian to German. Let me just go ahead and do these here. So what that's going to do is that'll push Germany up 1. I have them at 46 now. It'll push Italy down 1. This one here, Leningrad, that reverts back to the Soviets. So that's going to push the Germans down 2. I have them at 44. I think that's correct. And the Soviets would go up 2. I think they're at 34, if I have that right. the other things here that are affected, so Cyprus, there are German units in Cyprus. It had been Axis Italian, but since there's German units there, it now becomes German. That's not worth any points, but that is how that goes. Malta, interestingly, plays into one of the victory conditions, the Mediterranean victory point. That is now Allied Italian, so that's going to help the Allies. Greece is Allied Italian. Southern France is Allied Italian. And the big one, of course, is Berlin is now Allied Italian. So that's going to push Italy up 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have them. Oh, and then the other one that I did not mark, of course, Northern Italy, which is worth 4, is going to become German. So that's going to push Germany up another 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I've got them at 48. Not sure if that's exactly right. But once you do all of this, so of course that's going to be Allied Italian. I'll just kind of leave it that way. It doesn't become, it doesn't become Canadian. It's Allied Italian. I think what that, the income tracker ends up being, I believe, Italy, I think, is still at 14. Let me see, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I think that's where they end up at, is how that works. So that's kind of the big thing that Canada was able to do this game. That could and should make a big difference in the outcome, but we'll see. I mean, Germany is definitely gonna take Berlin back on their next turn, but it just creates problems for Germany now that they have to deal with that. So let's see, other well, and so Germany had, if I have this correct, I think, and Detroit can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Germany had 57 IPCs in the bank. I believe those go to Allied Italy. Now, of course, Germany will just take it back next turn, but they won't be able to spend anything at the beginning of turn 7. They'll probably get all that back at the beginning of turn 8, but by then it's kind of late to do anything with it. So kind of moving on here to other movements. So I think that's the only combat that I have for Canada. No combat for Anzac. And so we'll just kind of move now into the non-combat stuff. So we have this transport down here in C-Zone 66. He's going to move 1, 2 up into 86. And I'm going to have, I'll have these 2 infantry move down into Brazil, getting them ready for transport. And let's see, the other thing here that we're going to do, so we've got a strategic bomber in Quebec. He can go, and I'm going to use him as an air transport. He's going to take the 1 infantry in Quebec that is there. He can go 1 into 106, 2 into 107, 3 into 108, 4 into 109, and 5 into UK. I'm actually going to take him 6, 1 more, and land him in Scotland. And he's going to bring this guy with him. And he is an air transport, and so I should mark him as such. And I've just been using green chips to mark air transports. So there's that. Let's see what other movements we've got here. There's not much else as far as Anzac or Canada is concerned. I don't even think I'm going to move anything with respect to Anzac. I think I'm going to leave everything just how it is. We kind of have a buildup of forces here in Celebes. So I think that's it for Canada. I can go ahead and place Canada's purchase. So the transport will go into 106. The artillery will go into Quebec. Let's see. And so that's kind of it, I think, for Anzac and Canada. For France, we just have a few non-combat movements that we were going to do. So this infantry in Egypt, there is a British factory there. So he can rail using that British factory 1, 2, 3 into Iran. And the guy in Iraq, he's going to just walk down to Iran. Let's see. The other thing, I've got this French fighter here in Egypt, and can't do much down there. There's nothing to do down there, really. So what we're going to do is we're going to fly him 1 into 98, 2, 96, 3 into 97, 4. He's going to land there in Allied Italy with the Canadians. And then I think we're down to the last few things here. We've got a French destroyer that I'm going to move from 79 into 39 to be with the rest of that British fleet there. Let's see if there's anything else. I think that's basically every French piece I own. So let's go ahead and do a recap. And then what I might do at the very end here is actually go ahead and swap out each of these Italian pieces that have been flipped. I'll swap them out for German pieces. That's a lot of pieces that are going to become German. But let's go ahead and do the recap. So Canada has artillery in Quebec, transport in C-Zone 106. In Scotland, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 infantry, 1 artillery, 1 air transport. Coming on down here in Morocco, I've got 2 infantry. In Brazil, I've got 2 infantry. C-Zone 86, I've got a transport. C-Zone 95, there's a Canadian transport. Southern Italy, there's an infantry and an armor. There's also a French fighter there in southern Italy. Let's see, Egypt. You know what? If it's okay with you guys, I would also like to rail these 2 Canadians in Egypt over to Iran, if that's okay. If not, let me know. We can just move them back. So if that's the case, I've got 2 Canadians in Iran. And moving on over, I've got 1 Anzac guy in Sumatra, 1 in Java. In Celebes, I've got 1 infantry, 2 fighters. In C-Zone 44, there is an Anzac sub, along with a British sub and a British transport. On Celebes itself, there's also a British infantry, a British anti-aircraft gun, a British fighter, and a British tactical bomber. Dutch New Guinea, there's an anti-aircraft gun and an infantry. And Solomon Islands, there is an infantry. And of course, there are no Anzac units in all of Australia. That is all Japanese now. We just go over the kind of disposition of forces of the French. So we've got a French destroyer in 39. We've got 2 French infantry in Iran. We've got 2 French infantry in Morocco. We've got a French fighter in southern Italy. We've got 2 French infantry in London. And as far as money goes, Canada is still at 9, and they still get their NO. They've got this in a couple of ways, I suppose, but certainly they have the Canadians there in Morocco, so they get 3 for that. So they're going to collect 12 more. They carried over 1, so they will have 13 for round 7. The Canadians will have. And I should just mention, as we go into round 7, Italy will be investing $4 of the money that they have on hand for tech development, just so that that will not fall into the hands of the Germans. So they'll get $4 less. I'm going to go ahead and pause this, and then I'm going to swap out all these Italian units for German units. Okay. I think I've finished the swapping out. Here's everything that I've swapped out. All of these Italian units have been replaced with German units in northern Italy and western Germany, as well as a couple of tanks in Baltic states. I think I got them all. I don't think I missed anything. There are still, Allied Italian units, of course, in Berlin itself and in Leningrad. So maybe I'll just do a disposition of forces for after I've swapped it out, and Detroit can confirm. He's the one who had been playing, Italy and Germany. But what I have, at least on my board, in northern Italy, I've got 5 German infantry. I've got 6 German tanks. I've got 2 German fighters, 3 German artillery, and 4 German anti-aircraft guns. In western Germany, I've got 3 German infantry and 5 German fighters. And in Baltic states, I've got 1 German infantry, 6 German anti-aircraft guns, 4 German artillery, and now 2 German tanks. So Allied Italy, I've got 2 infantry and 1 artillery in Berlin, and I've got 1 air transport and 1 artillery there in Leningrad, which is reverted back to the Russians. And I have Germany at 48. I could be wrong on that, but I think that's correct. Anyway, that's kind of it. Here's the losses for the round. Lots of losses. So there's the Germans and the Soviets. The big thing that happened this round was there was a massive naval battle off the coast of Hawaii. So Japanese lost a ton of stuff. The U.S. lost a ton of stuff. But look at all those Japanese fighters that were lost. Of course, the U.S. lost a ton of stuff too. 3 Chinese infantry. There's a handful of Brits. Some Italian stuff, and then of course a whole bunch was swapped out for Germans just now. And of course, with the fall of Sydney, Anzac lost a fair amount, and a couple of Canadian units too. So that is it, guys. This is a little longer than typical, certainly for an Anzacanarance video, but thanks for watching. And on to round 7. We're just about done here. 7 and 8. It'll be interesting to see how this wraps up now that Berlin is in Allied hands, at least for a moment.